Okay, next we're going to be mixing tints and shades along here. Tint is when you add white to a color. A shade is when you add black to a color. Now, I kind of messed up a little while ago. I started this. I was using blue as my pure hue. The blue is going to fall in the middle. Because it was still clean from my mixing the color wheel, I decided to use the blue. I've added some white and some black to my palette as well because I'll be using those. The mistake I made was that when I swished my brush out, I didn't realize I still had some reddish purple in there. So when I started mixing my palest blue, it got kind of a lavender looking color. So that's why I had to start over. So I started by painting just the pure blue in the middle box. To make this most accurate, because this is going to look like a value scale when you're finished, it's going from light to dark. You could, if you wanted to, paint a little bit of white on this end and black on this end, but we're mainly focusing on creating the tints and shades. So since we mixed the dark color into the light color, we're going to start by mixing our very lightest blue. Now this really dark blue goes a long way in that white, so I'm not going to use much at all. I'm just getting a little bit on the tip. And I want just a very, very pale, pale blue. Okay, that looks pretty good. Get that into the box. Like I said, these don't have to be perfect. Okay, there's my lightest. A little more blue. To get a little darker. Most important part, when I'm grading these, I'm going to make sure that each blue, or whichever color you use, is darker than the one before it. Okay. And I'll continue adding a little bit of blue. You may find that you end up having to mix a little bit of white in there to get enough paint, which is fine. You just need to make sure that the next color you mix is darker. See, I've actually gone a little bit lighter. This one definitely seems darker to me. Okay, and then darker. Try to leave some of your blue clean for when you add the black to it. Okay, so now I've created my shade, my tints for the blue, and you can see how it looks like a value scale going from light to dark. Now we're going to be adding the dark black into the blue. But you know what? We still have some tint. We still have some white mixed in with that blue on our brush. So you want to clean your brush out, swirl it around really good in your water cup. And then use your paper towel to get it back to a relatively dry brush. You don't want a lot of water slopping around in there. Now, since we mixed the darker into the lighter, now we're going to mix the black into the blue. Now, on this edge right here, I had some white paint mixed in there, so I want to kind of turn my palette so that I'm getting in this part that doesn't have any white mixed in with it. So a little bit of black mixed into the blue. This is a little bit harder to see because of the shadows. Almost didn't mix enough to fill up the square. Okay, now I'm going to go a little darker, a little more black. Mix in some more of this blue here. Since I'm having to pull more blue in, I just want to make sure that this is darker than the one that I just put down. It looks pretty close. Add some more black. There we go, that's darker. Okay, and still darker. Probably use a little more black. You can tell when you get it on your paper if you got it dark enough. And if you didn't, it's okay just to paint back over it again. Now it's looking almost black. This last square, you're barely going to be able to tell there's any blue in there at all. All right, and there are the tints and shades.